The year was 2847, and humanity had been a prisoner for 600 years. They did not live behind bars or walls. Their prison was much larger. It was the cold emptiness of space itself. The Galactic Concordat, a council of 4,000 alien species, had drawn a line around 12 star systems and told humanity they could go no further. These 12 systems were humanity's cage, and the Concordat held the key. Admiral Marcus Cole stood at the observation window of the Olympus shipyards, watching robots and workers move across the hull of the largest ship ever built by human hands. The ship was called the Prometheus, and it was humanity's answer to 6 centuries of humiliation. Marcus was 63 years old. His hair had turned gray, and deep lines marked his face. He had served in the human fleet for 40 years, and he had seen things that still woke him at night. 20 years ago, the Concordat had sent their peacekeeping ships to one of humanity's colony worlds. They said the colony had broken some rule about weapons development. Marcus never learned what rule. He only knew that his wife and 2 children had been on that world when the Concordat ships arrived. They were not there when the ships left. He had spent every day since then working toward this moment. The door behind him opened, and Dr. Yuki Tanaka walked in. She was small, with sharp eyes and hair that was always messy from running her hands through it when she was thinking. She was the smartest person Marcus had ever met, and she had created something that would change everything. "The core is ready for the first test," she said. Her voice was calm, but Marcus could see the excitement in her eyes. "We can begin whenever you give the order." Marcus turned back to the window. The Prometheus stretched out before him, nearly 20 kilometers long. It was not just a warship. It was a city, a factory, and a laboratory all in one. It could carry 50,000 people and sustain them for 100 years without resupply. But its true power lay at its heart, where Yuki's creation waited, the Cascade Core. The Concordat had rules about what technology humanity could use. Their faster-than-light drives were limited to 12 light years per day. Their weapons could not exceed certain power levels. Their shields could only be so strong. For 600 years, humanity had followed these rules while the Concordat watched them like guards watching prisoners. But Yuki had discovered something the Concordat did not know about. Deep in the mathematics of reality itself, she had found a crack. The Cascade Core did not just move through space. It bent space. It twisted the rules that governed the universe. And if Yuki's calculations were correct, it would make the Prometheus more powerful than anything the Concordat had ever seen. "Do it," Marcus said. Yuki nodded and spoke into her communicator. Across the shipyard, technicians began the startup sequence. Marcus watched through the window as lights began to glow along the Prometheus's hull. The glow started soft, like distant stars, then grew brighter and brighter. Then something happened that Marcus would never forget. The Prometheus seemed to blur. For just a moment, it was not entirely there. It existed and did not exist at the same time. The space around it rippled like water, and Marcus felt a strange pressure in his ears, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Then the ship snapped back into normal space, solid and real once more. Yuki was staring at her datapad, her hands shaking. "It worked," she whispered. "Marcus, it worked. We bent space. We actually bent space." But Marcus was not celebrating. He was looking at his own datapad, where warning lights were flashing. "The test was detected," he said quietly. Sensors across the galaxy picked up the energy signature. Yuki's face went pale. "How long do we have?" Marcus thought about the Concordat fleet, the millions of ships that enforced their rule across the galaxy. He thought about what they would do when they learned what humanity had built. He thought about his wife and children, about all the humans who had suffered under Concordat rule. "Not long enough," he said. "But we knew this day would come." Across the galaxy, on a world called Axis Prime, the Concordat High Council was meeting an emergency session. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from thousands of species. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some had scales, others had feathers, and some had forms that human eyes could barely understand. They had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, and they had built their power on one simple principle: no species could be allowed to grow too strong. The speaker of the council, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, stood at the center of the chamber. His name was Varix, and he had led the council for 300 years. "The energy signature from the human systems is unmistakable," he said. his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "They have developed cascade technology." Murmurs filled the chamber. Fear, anger, and disbelief mixed together in a wave of alien voices. "That is impossible," someone shouted. "The cascade technology was lost with the precursors 3 billion years ago." "Impossible or not, the humans have done it," Varix replied. "And we all know what that means." Silence fell over the chamber. Every species there knew the stories of the precursors. They had been the first great civilization, builders of wonders that still dotted the galaxy. They had mastered technology that could reshape reality itself. And then, 3 billion years ago, they had simply vanished. No one knew why. The Concordat had been founded with one purpose: to make sure no species ever reached that level of power again. They called it protection. They called it peace. But the truth was simpler. They were afraid, and now their greatest fear had come true. "I call for a vote," Varix said. "Protocol Omega, the complete removal of the human threat." The vote was quick. It was unanimous. Across the galaxy, orders went out to Concordat fleets. 200,000 warships began to move toward human space. Their mission was simple: destroy the Prometheus, and then destroy humanity itself. Back at the Olympus shipyards, Marcus Cole looked at his ship and made a silent promise. The Concordat was coming to end humanity, but humanity was not going to wait for them. They were going to fight, and with the Prometheus, they finally had a chance to win. The prison walls were about to come down. 6 weeks had passed since the first test of the Cascade Core, and the galaxy had changed. Ambassador Chen Wei sat alone in her quarters on Axis Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Concordat. For 30 years, she had served as humanity's voice among the stars. She had smiled when she wanted to scream. She had been polite when she wanted to fight. She had played their game and followed their rules, always hoping that one day things would change. Now they had changed, but not in the way she had hoped. The other ambassadors no longer spoke to her. When she walked through the halls of the Concordat Assembly, aliens who had once greeted her warmly now turned away. She had become invisible. Worse than invisible, she had become a disease that no one wanted to catch. A soft knock came at her door. Chen Wei opened it to find a small creature standing in the hallway. He was covered in gray fur and had large, sad eyes. His name was Torvin, and he was the ambassador from a minor species called the Veth. They were a quiet people who had lived under Concordat rule for 50,000 years, never causing trouble, never rising above their station. "May I come in?" Torvin asked, looking nervously down the empty hallway. Chen Wei stepped aside, and Torvin hurried through the door. She closed it behind him and activated the privacy shield that blocked all listening devices. "You should not be here," she said. "If they see you talking to me, they will punish your people." Torvin's ears flattened against his head. "I know, but I could not stay silent. Ambassador, you must warn your people. The Council has invoked Protocol Omega." Chen Wei felt her heart stop. She had heard rumors of Protocol Omega, but she had always believed it was a myth, a story told to frighten young species into obedience. That cannot be true. Protocol Omega means complete destruction. They would not go that far. "They already have," Torvin said. "Twice before in galactic history, species that grew too powerful, that developed technology beyond their station. The Concordat erased them so completely that no one even remembers their names." He paused, his voice dropping to a whisper. "And now they mean to do the same to humanity." Back at the Olympus shipyards, work on the Prometheus continued day and night. Workers who had not slept in days kept moving, kept building, driven by the knowledge that their families, their world, and their entire species depended on them. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in the core chamber, surrounded by screens showing data that would have seemed like magic just a year ago. The Cascade Core hummed around her, a sphere of impossible energy contained by fields she barely understood. She had built this thing, but she was only beginning to grasp what it could truly do. Lieutenant Commander Zara Okonkwo found her there, staring at the core like it was a puzzle she could not solve. Zara was tall and strong, with skin dark as space and eyes that missed nothing. She was the ship's tactical officer, responsible for turning the core's power into weapons that could defend humanity. "You look worried," Zara said. Yuki did not take her eyes off the core. "I ran more tests today. The core does not just bend space. It can create pockets where the normal laws of physics do not apply. Energy that should destroy us bends around us instead. Weapons that should overwhelm our shields simply feed power back into the core. That sounds like good news. It is. But I also found something else. Yuki finally turned to face Zara. The core draws power from somewhere. I thought it was pulling energy from subspace, but it is more complicated than that. It pulls from other realities, other versions of the universe where we never built this ship. Zara was quiet for a moment. Are you saying we are stealing power from other universes? I am saying I do not fully understand what I have created. And that frightens me. The door to the core chamber opened, and Admiral Cole walked in. His face was grim. Both women knew that look. It meant bad news. I just received word from Ambassador Chen Wei, he said. Protocol Omega has been confirmed. 200,000 Concordat ships are heading our way. We have 30 days. The number hit them like a physical blow. Humanity's entire fleet was 3,000 ships. They were outnumbered almost 70-1. Can we finish the Prometheus in time? Zara asked. We will have to, Cole replied. Because if we do not, there will be no humanity left to save. The next 3 weeks were a blur of exhaustion and fear. The Prometheus slowly came to life, system by system. Workers collapsed at their stations and were replaced by others. Some died from the stress, their hearts giving out after days without sleep. They were buried in space with full honors, and the work continued. During this time, Torvin the Veth ambassador made a dangerous journey. He stole a small ship and fled Axis Prime, crossing half the galaxy to reach human space. When he arrived at the Olympus shipyards, he brought information that changed everything. He met with Admiral Cole, Dr. Tanaka, and a small group of senior officers in a secure room aboard the Prometheus. The Concordat is not just afraid of your ship, Torvin explained. They are afraid of what it represents. The Cascade technology is not new. It is ancient. It was created by the precursors, the first civilization to rule the galaxy. They vanished 3 billion years ago, and no one knows why. But they left behind ruins and artifacts scattered across thousands of worlds. We know about the precursors, Cole said. Every species does. But no one has ever been able to understand their technology. That is because the Concordat does not want anyone to understand it. Torvin's eyes were wide with the weight of what he was sharing. For 3 billion years, they have hidden the truth. They have destroyed any species that came close to rediscovering precursor technology. You humans are not the first. You are just the latest. Yuki leaned forward. Are you saying we independently recreated technology that has been deliberately suppressed for billions of years? Yes. And that is why they fear you so much. Not because of what you have done, but because of what it proves. Humans reached this level in just 10,000 years of civilization. The Concordat species took millions of years to reach far less. Your kind learns faster, adapts faster, and innovates faster than any species the galaxy has ever seen. Silence filled the room as the weight of Torvin's words settled over them. They are not coming to punish us, Cole said slowly. They are coming to eliminate a threat they know they cannot control. Yes, Torvin agreed. But there are others who have suffered under Concordat rule. My people, and many more. We have been too weak and too scattered to resist. But if humanity can prove that the Concordat can be defied, others may find their courage. Cole looked at his officers, at the exhausted determination in their eyes. They had built a ship that could shake the galaxy. Now they had to decide what to do with it. 30 days, he said. Let us make them count. The Concordat Armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system on a cold morning in March. 200,000 ships spread across the darkness of space like a wall of metal and fire. They were warships from 100 different species, each one built to enforce the will of the galaxy's rulers. Together, they had destroyed civilizations. They had crushed rebellions. They had maintained order across 1 million worlds for millions of years. They had never faced anything like humanity before. Admiral Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the enemy fleet on the main screen. His ship was only 87% complete. Some systems were still being tested. Some weapons had never been fired. But time had run out, and ready or not, humanity had to fight. Earth Defense Fleet is moving to intercept, Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo reported. Her voice was steady, but Cole could see the tension in her shoulders. 3,000 ships. They are requesting permission to engage. Cole looked at the numbers on his screen. 3,000 against 200,000. It was not a battle. It was a sacrifice. Tell them to buy us time, he said quietly. We need 30 more minutes to bring the core to full power. The human fleet surged forward to meet the enemy. Cole watched as the first missiles were fired. The first beams of energy crossed the void between the two forces. For a few minutes, it almost looked like a real battle. Human ships darted between the larger Concordat vessels, firing their weapons and dodging return fire. Then the Concordat fleet stopped playing. Their main warships opened fire with weapons that humanity had no answer for. Gravity beams that crushed ships like paper. Antimatter bombs that turned metal into light. Plasma cannons that burned through shields like they were not there. The human fleet began to die. Cole watched as ships he had served on vanished in flashes of fire. He saw the names scrolling across his screen. Names of friends. Names of people he had trained with, fought beside, shared meals with. Each flash was 1,000 lives gone forever. 1,500 ships remaining. Okonkwo said. Her voice cracked. 1,200. 900. How long until the core is ready? Cole asked. Dr. Tanaka's voice came through the communicator from the core chamber. 5 minutes. We are almost there. 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, the entire human fleet would be dust. 400 ships remaining, Okonkwo reported. Admiral, they are being destroyed. Cole gripped the arms of his command chair until his knuckles turned white. Every instinct told him to charge into battle, to save his people, to do something, but he knew that if the Prometheus entered the fight too early, before the core was at full power, they would die like all the others. 300 ships. 200. Admiral, they are asking for orders. They want to know if they should retreat. Cole closed his eyes. Those ships could run. They could scatter and hide and survive. But if they did, the Concordat fleet would reach Earth while the Prometheus was still powering up. Billions would die. Tell them to hold the line, he said. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. Tell them their sacrifice will not be forgotten. The human fleet did not retreat. They fought until the last ship was burning, until the last crew had given their lives for a few more precious seconds. When the Concordat fleet finally cleared the wreckage and turned toward Earth, only fragments remained of humanity's defenders, but those fragments had bought enough time. Core at full power, Tanaka announced. We are ready. Cole opened his eyes. Take us in. The Prometheus moved forward, a single ship against an armada. On the Concordat flagship, the alien commanders watched with confusion. Did the humans not understand what they were facing? Did they think one ship could make a difference? Then the Prometheus reached full speed, and everything changed. The Cascade core sang with power. Reality bent around the ship like water around a stone. The Prometheus was there and not there, existing in a state between dimensions that the Concordat had never seen. The first enemy missiles reached them. They did not hit. They curved around the ship as if pushed by an invisible hand, then flew off into empty space. The first energy beams reached them. They bent, twisted, and faded into nothing. The Concordat commanders gave the order to concentrate fire. 1,000 ships aimed their weapons at the Prometheus and fired at once. The barrage was enough to crack a planet. It would have destroyed any fleet in the galaxy. It did nothing. The energy poured into the space around the Prometheus and simply disappeared. No, not disappeared. It was absorbed. It fed into the Cascade core, making it stronger. Then the Prometheus fired back. Its weapons were not like anything the galaxy had ever seen. They did not burn or explode or crush. They unmade. When the first beam struck a Concordat warship, the ship simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, a massive vessel carrying 10,000 crew members. The next moment, there was nothing but a brief flash of light as matter converted directly into energy. The Concordat fleet panicked. For the first time in millions of years, they faced something they could not defeat. Ships tried to flee, but the Prometheus was everywhere, its weapons reaching across impossible distances. In 3 hours, 12,000 Concordat ships were destroyed. The remaining enemy fleet retreated to the edge of the system, too shocked to continue fighting. They had come to crush humanity. They had been crushed instead. But Admiral Cole did not celebrate. He looked at the images coming from Earth. The Concordat fleet had done terrible damage before the Prometheus stopped them. Orbital stations had been destroyed. Cities had been bombed. 2 billion human beings were dead, and millions more were wounded or homeless. Victory had come at a terrible price. The bridge was silent as the crew absorbed what had happened. They had won an impossible battle. They had proven that humanity could fight back. But so many had died. The defense fleet that had sacrificed itself. The civilians on Earth who had no way to protect themselves. The cost was almost too heavy to bear. Okonkwo was the first to speak. What do we do now? Cole looked at the remaining Concordat ships, still hovering at the edge of the system. They were regrouping. They were calling for reinforcements. This battle was over, but the war had just begun. They will never stop coming, Cole said. As long as the Concordat exists, humanity will never be safe. We have proven we can defend ourselves. Now we need to prove something else. He turned to face his crew, his eyes hard with determination. We are going to Axis Prime. We are going to the heart of the Concordat itself. And we are going to show the entire galaxy that the age of fear is over. The Prometheus turned away from Earth and pointed toward the distant stars. Behind them, the wreckage of the battle spread across millions of kilometers. Ahead of them lay a journey of 40,000 light years, through hostile territory, against an enemy that controlled the galaxy. It was impossible. It was insane. It was exactly what humanity did best. The journey across the galaxy should have taken years. With normal faster-than-light drives, the Prometheus would have needed decades to reach Axis Prime. But the Cascade core did not follow normal rules. It bent space, folded distance, and turned light years into hours. Still, the Concordat did everything they could to stop them. The first ambush came 3 days into the journey. A fleet of 50,000 ships was waiting for them near a binary star system, hidden behind clouds of cosmic dust. They sprang their trap perfectly, surrounding the Prometheus on all sides. It did not matter. The Prometheus passed through them like a ghost, its weapons striking without warning, its hull untouchable. When the ship emerged from the other side of the ambush, 10,000 enemy vessels were gone, and the rest were scattered in confusion. But the Concordat learned. They adapted. The second attack was different. Instead of ships, they used gravity mines. Thousands of devices were scattered across the Prometheus's path, each one designed to create a pocket of crushing gravitational force. The ship entered the minefield before anyone detected the danger. The first mine detonated, and the Prometheus shook. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Crew members were thrown from their stations as the ship twisted and groaned. "Report!" Admiral Cole shouted. Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo pulled herself back to her console. "The mines are creating gravity wells around us. The core is compensating, but each detonation is draining our power. Can we get through? If we push the core harder, yes. But we do not know what the long-term effects might be." Cole looked at Dr. Tanaka, who had come to the bridge when the attack began. Her face was pale, her eyes fixed on the data streaming across her tablet. "Yuki, what do you think?" Tanaka was quiet for a moment. "The core can handle it. But I have been studying the energy readings, and I am starting to understand something. Every time we push the core harder, it draws more power from other realities. We are essentially borrowing energy from universes where we made different choices. Universes where we never built this ship. What happens to those universes?" Cole asked. "I do not know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything." She looked up at him, fear and wonder mixed in her eyes. "We might be destroying entire realities to power our survival." The ship shook again as another mine detonated. Cole had to make a decision. "Get us through," he ordered. "We can worry about the philosophy later. Right now, survival comes first." The Prometheus pushed forward, the Cascade core blazing with power that came from places beyond human understanding. The gravity mines crushed space around them, but the core pushed back, creating a bubble of stable reality that carried the ship to safety. They emerged from the minefield damaged but alive. The cost of that survival weighed heavily on everyone's minds. As the weeks passed, the Prometheus encountered more attacks. Biological weapons designed to kill only humans. Weaponized black holes. Fleets that threw themselves at the ship in suicide charges. Each time, the Prometheus survived. Each time, the cost grew higher, but something else was happening. Something the Concordat did not expect. Word of the Prometheus had spread across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Concordat rule for thousands of years watched as a single human ship defied the greatest military power ever known. And for the first time in ages, they began to hope. The Veth were the first to help. Torvin, who had stayed aboard the Prometheus after fleeing Axis Prime, contacted his people through secret channels. They began providing information about Concordat patrol routes and supply depots. Small gifts, but they helped. Then came the Krell, a species of peaceful builders who had been forced to construct weapons for the Concordat for generations. They sent fuel and repair supplies, hidden in cargo ships that officially carried nothing but industrial equipment. Then the Morthani, ancient beings of living crystal who had retreated to their home system rather than serve the Concordat. They shared star maps showing safe passages through dangerous regions of space. One by one, species that had been too weak and too afraid to resist alone began to reach out. They could not fight the Concordat directly, but they could help the ship that was doing what they had always dreamed of. Lieutenant Commander Okonkwo led a team of soldiers on a secret mission to a Concordat intelligence station. The station orbited a dead planet at the edge of explored space, far from any fleet that could protect it. The defenders never expected an attack from a ship that was supposed to be thousands of light years away. The mission was quick and brutal. Okonkwo and her team cut through the station's defenses, downloaded every file they could find, and escaped before reinforcements could arrive. What they found in those files changed everything. Protocol Omega has been used 17 times. Okonkwo reported to the senior officers in the ship's conference room. 17 species over the past billion years. Every single one of them was destroyed. Their worlds were sterilized. Their records were erased. Their names were removed from history. She put images on the screen. Images of dead planets. Their surfaces turned to glass by orbital bombardment. Images of ruins that no one had ever been allowed to study. Images of empty systems where billions of intelligent beings had once lived. The Concordat does not just control the galaxy, she continued. They prune it. Any species that develops too quickly, that shows too much potential, that threatens to reach the level of the precursors, is eliminated, and the rest of the galaxy never even knows. Torvin spoke up, his voice heavy with sorrow. My people have wondered for thousands of years why we never seem to advance. Why our science moved so slowly while species like yours raced forward. Now I understand. The Concordat has been holding us back, keeping us weak, keeping us afraid. Admiral Cole looked at the images of the dead worlds. 17 civilizations, billions upon billions of lives, all erased because they dared to dream of something greater. This is not about humanity anymore, he said quietly. This is about every species that has ever been crushed under the Concordat's rule. Every scientist whose research was banned, every inventor whose work was destroyed, every child who was told they could never be more than what they already were. He stood up and faced his officers. When we reach Axis Prime, we are not just going to save humanity. We are going to show the entire galaxy the truth. We are going to break the chains that have held 1,000 species prisoner for 1 billion years. The Prometheus continued its journey, now carrying a purpose greater than survival. Behind them, a coalition was forming. Dozens of species, connected through secret channels, all waiting for the moment when they could finally rise up. 3 weeks after leaving Earth, the Prometheus arrived at the edge of the Axis Prime system. Before them lay the heart of the Concordat, a world that had never known war, protected by 2 million warships, orbital weapons platforms that could crack planets, and a civilization that believed itself invincible. Admiral Cole looked at the enemy forces on his screen. 2 million ships, more firepower than humanity had ever faced. Well, he said, allowing himself a small smile, at least it will be interesting. The final battle was about to begin. Before the first shot was fired, Admiral Marcus Cole made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. He broadcast a message, using every communication channel available. Through frequencies that the Concordat could not block, he sent his words to every corner of known space. The message contained everything: the truth about Protocol Omega, the names of the 17 destroyed species, the evidence gathered from the intelligence station, and the simple declaration that humanity would not be the 18th. To all species of the galaxy, Cole said, his voice carrying across light years. You have been lied to. The Concordat has told you that they protect you, that they keep peace, that they maintain order. But the truth is that they fear you. They fear what you might become. For 1 billion years, they have crushed any species that showed too much promise, too much potential, too much hope. They have kept you small and afraid, because they know that if you ever reached your true potential, you would not need them anymore. He paused, looking at the Concordat fleet spread across his screen. Today, that changes. Today, humanity stands against the Concordat. We may die here, but we will not be erased. We will not be forgotten. And if we fall, let our sacrifice be the spark that lights a fire across the galaxy. Let every species that has ever dreamed of freedom know that resistance is possible. The message ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited. Then the Concordat attacked. 2 million ships moved as one, a wave of metal and fire sweeping toward the Prometheus. Weapons that could destroy moons fired in coordinated barrages. Missiles that could pierce any shield streaked through space. It was the greatest display of military power in galactic history. The Prometheus dove into the heart of the fleet. Dr. Yuki Tanaka pushed the Cascade core beyond every limit she had ever set. The ship became something more than a vessel. It became a wound in reality, a point where the laws of physics bent and broke. Enemy fire passed through them like they were made of smoke. Enemy ships that came too close simply ceased to exist. Their matter converted to energy that fed the core. But the Concordat had prepared their own surprise. Deep within their fleet, hidden among the warships, was a device they had spent centuries building. It was designed for one purpose: to collapse the dimensional pocket that the Cascade core created, to trap the Prometheus between realities forever. They activated it. Tanaka felt it immediately. The core began to scream, its energy fluctuating wildly as the device tore at the fabric of space around them. "They are trying to collapse our dimensional anchor," she shouted into her communicator. "If they succeed, we will be trapped outside normal space. We will cease to exist." On the bridge, Cole watched as the ship shuddered and groaned. Warning lights covered every console. The Prometheus was dying. "Can you stop it?" he asked. "I do not know. The only way to counter it would be to push the core beyond anything we have done before, to expand our dimensional presence instead of contracting it." Tanaka's voice was filled with fear and wonder. "But if we do that, the energy release could be catastrophic. We might survive, or we might destroy ourselves." Cole thought about everything they had sacrificed to reach this moment. The defense fleet that had died to buy them time. The 2 billion humans who had perished on Earth. The 17 species that the Concordat had erased from history. "Do it," he said. Tanaka closed her eyes and let go of every safety protocol she had ever written. The Cascade core expanded, reaching out into dimensions that human minds could barely understand. For one impossible instant, the Prometheus existed everywhere and nowhere, in every reality at once. And in that instant, Tanaka saw everything. She saw the technology that powered the core laid out like a diagram in her mind. She saw how it worked, how it could be replicated, how any species with the will to build it could have the same power. And she understood what she had to do. Instead of using the energy to destroy, she used it to transmit. The specifications for the Cascade core went out across the galaxy, in a pulse of information that nothing could stop. Every data system, every communication network, every scientific database received the blueprints for the most powerful technology in existence. The Concordat's greatest secret was no longer a secret. The enemy device overloaded and exploded. The dimensional collapse stopped. The Prometheus snapped back into normal space. Its core burned out, its systems failing, but its crew alive. Around them, the Concordat fleet had stopped firing. Confusion filled their communications as word spread of what had just happened. Across the galaxy, scientists were already studying the transmitted data. Species that had been held back for thousands of years were realizing that the chains binding them had just been broken. On the bridge of the Prometheus, silence fell as the crew understood what they had done. "The core is gone," Tanaka reported, her voice exhausted. "We have no weapons, no shields, and minimal life support. We are dead in space." Cole looked at the Concordat fleet surrounding them. 2 million ships, and the Prometheus was helpless before them. But the enemy did not attack. A transmission came through from the Concordat flagship. It was Speaker Verix, his silver face twisted with emotions that Cole could not read. "You have destroyed everything," Verix said. The order we built over 1 billion years. The peace we maintained across the galaxy. Do you have any idea what you have done? Cole smiled. Yes, we have set the galaxy free. You have set it on fire. Species will war against each other. Civilizations will rise and fall. The chaos will be endless. Maybe. Or maybe they will surprise you. Maybe they will build something better than what you created. Something based on cooperation instead of fear. Something that does not require crushing every species that shows potential. Cole shook his head. You were so afraid of what the galaxy might become that you never let it become anything at all. That age is over now. Varric stared at him through the screen, and Cole saw something he had never expected to see in an alien face. Doubt. The Concordant fleet withdrew, not because they could not destroy the Prometheus, but because it no longer mattered. The damage was done. The technology was free. Destroying one ship would not change anything. Over the following year, the galaxy transformed. The Concordat did not collapse overnight, but its power faded. Species that had lived in fear began to build their own cascade cores. Some used the technology wisely. Others made mistakes. But for the first time in 1 billion years, the future was not controlled by a single power. Humanity took its place among the stars. Not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as equals. The sacrifice of the defense fleet, the lives lost on Earth, the long journey across the galaxy, none of it was forgotten. Memorials were built. Stories were told. The names of the dead were written in letters of light that would shine forever. 1 year after the battle at Axis Prime, Admiral Cole stood in a memorial garden on Earth. The planet was healing. Cities were being rebuilt. Children were being born into a future that their parents had never dared to imagine. Dr. Yuki Tanaka found him there, standing before a wall that held the names of everyone who had died in the war for freedom. The Prometheus is repaired, she said. The Science Council wants us to lead an expedition to the old precursor sites. With the cascade technology available to everyone, we might finally be able to understand what happened to them 3 billion years ago. Cole nodded slowly, his eyes still on the names. Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing, giving that technology to the entire galaxy? Tanaka stood beside him, looking at the same names. Every day, we changed everything. We can never know if the changes will be good or bad. And yet, she smiled, a small but genuine expression. And yet, when I see children playing without fear, when I hear about species finally free to reach their potential, when I think about the future we made possible, I would do it again. Cole turned away from the memorial and looked up at the sky, where stars were beginning to appear in the fading light. Somewhere up there, the Prometheus waited. Then let us go see what the future holds. They walked together toward the shuttle that would take them back to the stars. Behind them, the memorial stood in peaceful silence. Before them lay a galaxy of infinite possibility. Humanity had built a ship so powerful that the galaxy tried to destroy it. But in the end, that ship had not been a weapon of war. It had been a key that unlocked the chains of 1 billion years. And now, finally, the future was free.